to it. 10 brand new games we are actually hyped about. I guess we'll see if we're actually hyped about them or not, and if they're any originals or if they're just remakes of old games, you know? It's gonna be
It might
great.
seem that all that ever gets announced anymore are remakes and sequels.
Exactly.
Original games
Yep.
aren't dead in the video game world, you just have to
Games are
know
getting
where to
so pretty.
look for them, and that's where
Yeah.
we come in. There's actually recently been a lot of exciting announcements from new and upcoming studios with games that
That's a good
aren't
game.
remakes, aren't adaptations of something else, or
Yeah.
a remake, or based on a comic book or nostalgia reboot or anything.
Ugh.
They're just new games.
I'll play some
There are a
Capcom
lot of
games.
them that we're very hyped
Marvel
about. And it's
games.
not just because they're new, these are legitimately interesting and exciting looking games. Keep in mind, as a disclaimer, these aren't
hard to break the
wholesale
mold
endorsements
nowadays,
yet.
you know?
We're just going on pre-announcement stuff. We're not sponsored by any of these games or anything like that. We're not
That's
reviewing
good.
them, but just
We don't want
games
you
we're
to be.
keeping an eye on that look cool. Because contrary to what the internet might sometimes lead you to believe, it's okay to be excited about video games, man. So you get the idea? We're talking about upcoming games here, but the rule when we made this list was no remakes or sequels, just new IPs or intellectual properties. So don't get mad at us for leaving out Grand Theft Auto 6 or anything. We're excited about that too, but today it's all about new stuff. Anyway, that was a long-winded thing. Let's just get started with number 10.
Whatever happened to that prototype
Phantom
game? You
Blade
remember
Zero.
that? That was such a good one.
This upcoming
Phantom Blade Zero.
martial arts-inspired action game is looking real sharp if the trailers are anything to go by. The emphasis here is on fast, brutal action, and it looks really spectacular in
It
motion.
looks like I just get my butt kicked that entire game. It's giving me Dante's Inferno vibes.
It's good to see that the fast-paced action games are finally
Synchronized
seeing a revival
death right
between
there.
games like this and honestly a bunch of other stuff on this list.
Oh,
Now
it's a
is a
boss
good time
battle.
to just be a crazy
like most
all-out
of them would be
action
coordinated
game
like
fan.
that.
There's not a whole lot we actually know about this game, other than that it's a wuxia-inspired setting and intense-looking combat, and even the developers are mostly unknown, having made a few smaller indie games before this one. But with Sony supporting the studio,
Upgraded into
we're
the
hoping that
AAA
things are going to
title
work out
category.
well. You could tell they're pretty
It's awesome.
confident about it with the most recent gameplay trailer that just runs for 6 minutes straight and doesn't try to hide anything about the game. It's just pure gameplay and some boss battles, and it all looks very slick.
That looks so cool. It's definitely Dante's Inferno meets Elden Ring. I think everybody's kind of getting on the Elden Ring bandwagon right now.
I have gotten my hands on an early preview version of the game last year at Summer Game Fest, and I can confirm it's a lot of fun to play. It's pretty over the top. It can be challenging, but you as the player have a lot of options.
Before we go on from this, I mean, I know this game's good and we're gonna keep on going. I don't want to spoil it, but like if you have any games that you're like really looking forward to in the future, just drop them into the comments here so I can hear about them. I think that's gonna be really awesome because I'm always looking for good games and I'm kind of picky. So if you could recommend some to me, I would love that. Comments or chat, you know, whichever one if you're watching it after the live, go ahead and put it in the comment because I want to know. I really do.
Options, a lot of power at your fingertips. There's a pretty big variety of different weapons to use, ranged attacks, and also these really over-the-top, sometimes screen-filling special attacks. Oh, and one interesting tidbit of info we found online is that the game is set in a large, interconnected world. It's not going to be an open world, but each area will be connected, and as you advance through the story, apparently additional paths open up for exploration, which sounds like the ideal setup for a game like this. You get some exploration, but it doesn't bog the game down, or at least in theory. Honestly, everything we've seen about this game so far,
like World of Warcraft. Whenever you get in there, and it has like this massive world, and I got Explorer before they kept on with the expansions back in like Burning Crusade. I got the Explorer thing because there wasn't that much to go around, but you just have to like fly in a grid pattern to get all these discovered lands, and it was a lot of work. Now it's even harder. So like whenever you drop a character into a world where you can go anywhere and everywhere, it kind of can be overwhelming. So I'm glad that they kind of like pace it out for you, right?
Seems pretty damn exciting. Like we said, some of those trailers, the boss fights, that puppet boss in the trailer looks absolutely nuts. The way the music cues change,
it did look kind of cool,
like
but
different music kicks in. It just seems like a cool thing that we're going to be playing hopefully sometime in 2025.
Like
next over at number 9, Steel Hunters. Mech games are back, and it feels real good.
Yeah,
the humble mech
like
has
Mech
been
Assault was
woefully underrepresented in recent video game years, but with the success of games like Armored Core, the industry seems to finally recognize something that
I downloaded that game, never
who
played
plays
it.
these games already knows, man. Mechs are cool. Now, the ones in Steel Hunters look particularly badass here, like a cross
really
between
do.
a Gundam and a Titanfall mech. But what really matters is that the game just looks fun to play.
I would just love to be. Well, it's basically like what? It's like a cool first-person shooter. Like instead of having jetpacks on normal humans, like in Halo Reach and stuff, which ruined the competitiveness of the game because it created too much variability. In my opinion, for MLG, it should have been like mechs. If you want to play a game like that with jetpacks and flying, and if you want it to be first-person shooter style with all these power-ups and abilities, like this is what we want to see. This is what we want to play. We need a mech game for that. Don't ruin my Halo game that used to be more competitive and more even keel. Now it's unbalanced. When you unbalance a game, you remove that kind of competitive edge. I want to focus on tactics and also shooting, with maybe third being movement, because I don't think all these games are so levered on movement now. It's almost annoying. It's like, bro, can you even shoot, or are you just gonna like, give me some accuracy, like make it to where like you have to be a better shot, make it to where you have to be better at tactics. And that's what I think Rainbow Six Siege got good at. But then again, it's like almost too heavy on the tactics. So like, let me know if that's a bad take or whatever. I don't know how that goes. What's the weirdest comment you've ever gotten? You guys are all freaks, so yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of weird comments from you guys. Do you think people take the internet drama too seriously? I mean, I think even talking about it's taking it too seriously. So yeah, I would say internet drama is pretty. I mean, anybody says anything behind a keyboard, if that hurts your feelings, they won't say it to your face, you know. So like, don't take it too personal. You don't have to. You don't have to get upset about it. Matter of fact, if you do get upset about it, you should just get off the internet, because somebody's always going to have a negative opinion about it, about something at some point in time. And I'm one of those people, so I know that to be true. What's your research process like? Man, honestly, I just hop in here and just have a good time with you guys and watch videos. That's what I like about it. I think that's the best part about it. You think the algorithm is rigged? I think it's rigged. Yeah, I think that there's a reason behind the madness, and I think that it's just hard to get out of that like bottom like the cream of the crop has to rise above the noise in the bottom. There's so much noise down there. Yeah, exactly. So cool.
Steel Hunters is an upcoming free-to-play extraction shooter where you play in teams of 2. You enter this big, gigantic map. You search for resources, fight NPC enemies who are around in the map, and compete with 5 other teams who are trying to do the same thing. Look, free-to-play and even sometimes extraction shooter doesn't always work with us. Like, sometimes we hear that when we go, oh boy, another one of these. But just looking at this trailer, it looks cool. It's the mechs.
It's cool.
The map design looks really interesting.
I'll try it out.
The combat looks pretty powerful. And like we said, it just looks like it's a ton of fun. It's a really exciting idea, like a cross between Tarkov and Titanfall. That looks like it's just going to be a blast. There's even a PvE mode, apparently, for folks who are out there that just want to stomp around these awesome-looking maps as a mech. As of right now, we know the game is currently in alpha, and there's no hard release date given, just a blanket coming soon. But with the developers of this being the guys behind all the World of games, like World of Tanks, World of Warships, stuff like that, we expect this one to come out and probably do pretty well, but just watch out for the monetization. If their previous games are anything to go by, then Steel Hunters will be monetized up the ass, to hell and back. Look, we can overlook some of that stuff. We're just going to have to wait and see when it releases. But again, the idea is awesome here. Next, over at number 8 is Hell Is Us. You got our attention here because Souls-likes so rarely try to color outside that established dark fantasy setting. I mean, what was the last one we had? Like The Surge? So anytime anything comes along that looks like it's actually different, then we sit up and take notice. And we're not entirely even sure this is technically a Souls-like, but whatever it is, it does look really interesting. It appears modern,
it gave me a little bit of
supernatural, almost kind of Death Stranding-like elements and sci-fi elements. There's a semi-open world to explore that is giving us also some control vibes in some of it, like, you know, the mix of the alien and then like the normal stuff.
Hey, who are you?
I'm Rebecca. I've been hiding here since the attack on Jova.
Kids in games.
Fell from the sky.
They haven't shown too much combat. There is a gameplay video out there, and from what we've seen, it looks like it fits into a Souls-style mold with your guy wielding swords and spears and axes against these supernatural foes. The trailer was intriguing enough, but the way the developers emphasize the exploration aspect
and it doesn't fit together
actually has us really interested. It's not usually something that gets brought up first, but the thing that separates a good technical Souls-like and an excellent one is often the world design.
Mhm.
Exploration is a key
Yeah, it
component
is.
of those games. And some of the
I
most
like to I like the
memorable moments in these
visuals.
kind
I
of
like
games
cool
is
things to
when you just
see
wander into
while
some
I'm
place where it
wandering.
feels like you really shouldn't be there, or you discover
Yeah.
something cool. You know, that feeling where you go into an area and stop and reconsider, maybe I should go back here later. Or, if I push a little further, I might find something cool. I hope this
True.
game is able to give us those feelings, because looking at the world
Kind of like
design
a
and the
loot
trailers and
style
the
game.
gameplay trailers and stuff like that, it looks like it might. Now, as of right now, this is coming out September 4th, 2025, and it's coming from developer Rogue Factor. Look, like any game on this list, it could release and crash and burn, but the pre-release information we're looking at here makes us pretty optimistic.
I'm only permitted to play Sabinian classics, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, I only happen to know one of their dreadful compositions.
Next, over at number 7, Tides of Annihilation. This extremely ambitious-looking action game kind of reminds us of a cross between Nier Automata and, bizarrely enough, Shadow of the Colossus. It's an action game set in this destroyed London that looks to mix cinematic action and semi-open world elements, but then there are also these gigantic knights roaming the city that you have to climb up and systematically dismantle in what looks to be like big epic set piece battles. So we see some RPG elements, platforming
really
that wouldn't look out of
cool.
place in kind of an Uncharted game.
I love that.
And
It's awesome.
a really interesting combat system where you actually command 10 different knights in order to fight enemies. Does anybody remember Folklore for PS3? Anyone? It kind of reminds me of that. Now, from the reveal, this game appears to be highly polished and very cool looking. This whole Arthurian legends, but in modern day visual style.
I'm not really into these kinds of games, but it does look
fun. But the gameplay is what really has our attention. Right off the bat, they're claiming there's going to be 30 boss fights, and from what we've seen from the trailers, they do look like they're going to be pretty cool. This one got revealed at a PlayStation event, but it's actually coming out for everything. And while this is coming from yet another mostly untested studio who have done a lot of support work in the past, this game looks like it's going to be really impressive when it comes out. Whenever it comes out, just because there's no release date yet.
What's with the no release date?
Storer Parkour Pro. This
so you're gonna be running around the whole time?
Q1 2025 indie
prototype,
looks
basically
really intriguing. Just don't go into it expecting a horror game. That's just the name. What's actually interesting about this is the parkour, which does look really, really nice. It's set in this open world London with a story mode as well as multiplayer components. But this game looks like it's about one thing.
What was that freestyle inline game that was like anime back in the day? That's kind of like how it worked. You like the new hair? Thanks, man. Thanks, man. I got rid of that like pompadour thing, and I'm going slick back for a little while. We'll see it. Pairing it with the mustache, it's barely growing, and I kind of look like a clown. But do you remember the inline skating game that was like, and then you had like missions that you had to go through? It was like anime based, and that game was really fun. And this kind of parkour thing gives me that vibe, and I'd be down. So, have y'all seen that Tony Hawk's remastered games coming out soon? Are y'all gonna play that? I think I am. I'm probably gonna play that, dude. I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be
really
good.
Only, and that's satisfying parkour gameplay.
Yeah.
It apparently uses its own animation system that combines motion capture with physics-based movement, and it does look really awesome. It's kind of like if Mirror's Edge had a love child with Human Fall Flat, which is just a really good idea. You get precision platforming, and then also noodle people ragdolling and flopping around.
What's the point?
Everybody loves a good ragdoll, and from the trailers, this game definitely has it. There's a lot of scrappy indie energy to this one. It's a very ambitious project, but the trailers don't exactly have that AAA polish, but who cares, as long as it's fun. There's a lot of interesting ideas in this one. I like how it seems to be both more sport-oriented with more complex movement that you usually get in these kind of games.
Did you just say, is the mic made out of soap because he's dropping it every time? What is going on in my chat right now? What's your favorite thing about being a YouTuber? You guys saying the most ridiculous thing in my chat while I'm watching YouTube. That's what my favorite part is, really. I mean, and y'all are so hot and cold, so like y'all tell me something that's just totally off the wall, rude, mean, and I love that. But then y'all be like really nice to me like 5 minutes later, and so like it's emotional situation all the time. You guys are always the funnest part about this, right? Because otherwise I don't mind sitting here talking to myself, but like when I get to talk to y'all, that's fun.
while also kind of being arcadey and fun. This game doesn't have like
Also
the most
follow and
realistic
like
parkour.
if
From
you haven't
everything we've
already.
seen, it's more about just being fun than strictly completely accurate like a parkour simulator. Still, I think the jury's out on how this actually plays. It looks very cool. Those animations are gorgeous, but how does it actually feel when you have a controller
What
in
did it
your
say?
hand? We're just gonna have to wait
Who's
and
following
find out.
me?
Next over
Send
number
me the
5,
follow.
Chronos,
Thanks,
the New
man. I
Dawn.
appreciate
now,
it.
there's been a lot
You're
of
awesome.
solid survival
Thank
horror
you.
games recently, but what we usually get are either games in long-running franchises like, Resident Evil or Silent Hill,
Chronos.
or low-budget indie games that can be very good, but I think what a lot of us do want is a high-fidelity horror game that actually does something kind of new. From what we've seen of Chronos, this new game from Bloober Team, this is the horror game we've been kind of waiting for. It's got a bizarre, time-bending premise where you play as a freaky bobblehead roaming the nightmare future in order to find time portals that'll allow you to retrieve people from the past and then bring them into the future for some reason.
Yeah, what's the point? Oh my god, that looks horrifying. I love that. You guys. Oh,
it's a weird-looking game with weird concepts that seems to combine alien abstraction with Eastern Bloc brutalism in a way that just feels really unique, even while the actual gameplay looks pretty recognizable, but in a good way. It's not a tedious walking simulator or
like
a horror game with not a lot of real gameplay.
What?
This looks like it's like a full-on Resident Evil 4 Dead Space style third-person shooter where you're kind of slowly clunking around in your suit, shooting at all these weird malformed alien freaks and managing resources. It's a survival horror game technically, and it embraces that, and we're excited to see how it'll actually feel, how it actually will play when it comes out sometime in 2025. Look, you can go back a year or so and a lot of people would care a little less about seeing a new Bloober Team game, but after the Silent Hill 2 remake they did, we're hoping for the best with this one. Next over at number 4,
you said solid. You said when am I dropping merch? Actually, I have a couple of merch items already. I have a shirt, a hoodie, and a coffee mug. But just I would caution you to purchase them. I'm waiting for my first sample, so I don't know if they're going to be good quality yet. So just give it a little bit. If you want to donate to the stream, you can do that through tips and stuff like that on my pages and whatnot. Not required. Always appreciated, because I didn't deserve it. But yeah, I would just wait on the merch. I want to make sure the quality's good before you guys start buying it. So just give me a couple more days on that. I'll let you know, man.
Chimera. Now, it's pretty rare to see an old-fashioned, story-driven, first-person shooter game these days, but that's exactly what we're looking at here, and that alone is enough to get us excited. But there's actually a lot about this game.
I like first-person shooters.
The shooting, for one thing, looks pretty solid.
Looks a little Destiny
futuristic
vibes.
Guns that have some real pop to them, and some exciting.
I'm just not really into the whole robots and stuff taking over and being the ultimate enemy. That's kind of what I didn't like about some of the things in Destiny. It kind of like threw me off, and I was like, okay, I guess I can sit here and kill it. The other thing that was really good, if y'all ever get a chance to play virtual reality, is Robo Recall. That game was so much fun once I got down, like just pulling guns off of your back and shooting all these things and getting high scores, and like it was just so cool. I really loved that vibe there. I really wish we could get back to that.
Special abilities.
But I sold my VR because I don't have a lot of space anymore. Yeah.
If you're doing an FPS, getting the shooting right, the feedback, the feel is essential. And this game looks like it's got the sauce for it. I'd expect as much, as the people making it are the developers.
Is it like an arena shooter?
Otherwise known as the newly independent 4A Games Ukraine, the guys who worked on the Metro series. Now, the main 4A Games branch was in Malta, and they're still around, so the situation might be confusing to some, but all that really matters is that these guys aren't up-and-comers. They're veterans, and it seems like they've got some serious shooter credentials. Another interesting thing about this game is the setting. Rather than your standard dystopian setting, this one is set in a futuristic Latin America, which really gives the game its own unique vibe. We've never seen a South American cyberpunk setting, and that gives this game a unique flavor that's usually missing from games like this. It can be played solo or with up to 2 friends, so hopefully this one ends up being the fun roller coaster ride that the trailer really promises. Of course, trailers are one thing, the actual game is another thing, but I don't know. This was a good trailer, man.
There's a pacing, vibe, and flow of it. Do you think commentary channels should be held to journalistic standards? Oh God, I hope not. I hope not. I'll have to quit, man. I mean, the things that I say are just dumb. They don't make any sense half the time. I mean, they're mid opinions. I don't mind, but like, come on, man. I hope not.
Clockwork
Jesus.
Revolution. Remember this one? It got announced a while back, but from the premise alone, this just looks really intriguing. For one thing, this is coming from In
I
Exile, the guys
love the
behind
period
Wasteland
piece,
3, among
like
other things.
future
They've got the world building
history.
credentials to do something interesting here. And what they've shown of Clockwork Revolution, as much as it wasn't a lot, it does seem ambitious and interesting. It's essentially
It's definitely
a
new.
Bioshock-style first-person shooter with everything you'd expect, like
Oh, it's a
wacky
shooter.
steampunk guns, a fantastical setting, and some kind of
Steampunk
weird special
vibes.
abilities that like you can control with your other arm. Making a Bioshock
pretty
like
unique,
is exciting
yeah.
enough just because it's been so long since
Dishonored
we've gotten a
vibes.
proper sequel. But
That's what it is,
that's not the
Dishonored.
real draw here.
That was
The-
a good
the thing
game,
that
too.
really makes Clockwork Revolution unique is what seems to be its time travel mechanic. In this game, you travel through time.
I guess
apparently,
clockwork makes sense.
Going back
Time
to
travel
key moments,
clocks
and depending on
work.
your choices, they will actually affect what the city becomes. Is it a paradise with a dark side or a full-blown dystopia? The possibilities for reactive storytelling are endless if they really nail it. The big
That's gonna be
question is,
so cool.
how much can you actually change? How
Yeah.
time travel works is still very vague.
Do you guys think that the new AI capabilities are going to make games indefinitely replayable with new options and stuff? Because I think that that's going to be the future, and I'm really excited about it. But also, what's that going to do for video games companies, like actually getting to create new games and revenue? Because if I can just have something AI generated and continuously, kind of like Minecraft, where like you have seeds for worlds, so I can play a different world every single time. Same thing with Rust. I think that's really cool that they can generate those things. I think Valheim's the same way. I don't remember for sure, but yeah, that's kind of how I wish Power World was. Because if Power World was that way, right, then you would have been able to replay it multiple times, and it would have had more playability. You'd have to discover new areas, find the pals that you wanted. Every time would be like a new, fresh playthrough, and you wouldn't just have like your go-to strategy to play through it. That's what I wish there was. Hopefully in Power World 2 there'll be like seeds or something, if that's even gonna happen.
Vague. Right now, we have no idea how the system really works or how reactive it even is, or if it's just a linear gimmick. We don't know yet, but this is In Exile we're talking about here. Their entire bread and butter lately has been highly reactive RPGs. So this game could turn out to be something really unique, where you're constantly traveling back and forth in time, trying to figure things out in order to thread the needle and somehow create like an actually good outcome to whatever conflict is driving this story. Look, nobody knows much, but the premise is just rife with possibility. And even though we're probably expecting more than the game can possibly deliver, can't help but get excited just from like the visuals,
I am excited
the
about
world,
that.
all that stuff alone.
Too bad
Now,
all
number
these games
two,
together is be like
Reanimal.
500
This is coming
bucks.
from
You kind of
Studio
pick and
Tarsier.
choose.
These are the guys behind the original Little Nightmares games. This game is essentially the real Little Nightmares.
I feel like they put too many kind of horror style games on here. So like, I mean, that's not my genre. That's not my favorite thing, but they did add a lot of those to the list. But maybe those are just so happen to be the best games coming out. Have you ever made a video you later deleted? Actually, I've been considering it. But no, not yet. There's a couple videos in there that just didn't hit, and they might have had some content that just wasn't very shareable or very, yeah. So maybe we'll see. We'll see, man.
3. A different studio
I'm not
is
too picky
working on
about
that.
it.
These guys branched off to do this. They're essentially just kind of continuing what they were doing before with a new name and some different
Gives me,
spins.
like,
And honestly, that's all anyone really needs to get
Unraveled?
hyped about this one, because while it
Unraveled
does all look
vibes.
pretty familiar to fans of their games, it does look even crazier and more intense. Now, like their other games, Reanimal is
creepy.
going to be
Ooh.
a narratively driven, highly scripted, and probably fairly short horror game where you're mostly sneaking around, avoiding weird, gigantic freaks and solving puzzles and
Yeah.
exploring this bizarre, twisted, and beautifully designed world.
Does
Now,
look
again,
cool though.
no
Like, that's
offense
the
to
point of the
Little
game,
Nightmares
right?
3, which is
It's kind of like reading a book, right? Like you read through it once and you know the storyline, and then you're done with it. You set it down. You wait for the next one to come out. And I think that linearity, it can be appropriate for some games like this, where you're kind of like, it's like an interactive movie as opposed to it. That's what I liked about Stray. Like Stray has zero replayability, but you have different areas that you can go through, and Outlaws. I really liked Outlaws, and I kind of like got maybe like 80% of the way through the game, and all that was left was to get all the factions to 100%, and I was like, you know what, I can go around. I really wish there is an expansion. So if there is some expansion going out for Outlaws, just let me know because I'd like to know a lot about that. I love Star Wars so much. So if y'all ever want to talk Star Wars with me, let's go on, baby.
Being developed by Supermassive Games this time around, that game looks pretty good, but there's just something uniquely twisted about the original developer's vision, their takes, that you can really see in Reanimal here, and they're doubling down on it. The leash is off, and they're making what looks like their darkest, most disturbing game yet. I mean, just look at some of these freaks they've shown in the trailer. The game is somehow even more mysterious and grotesque looking than their previous games.
Dude, I got
We're just
chills
really
from
excited for the music, the art design, the visuals, and that stuff alone. We're looking forward to playing this one with a friend because it's actually going to be fully playable co-op.
It kind of gave me It Takes Two mixed with Unraveled vibes, and I liked It Takes Two. I wish I'd played all the way through that, but it takes two. I don't have any friends.
It comes out. The game's release date right now is just a vague coming soon. Now at number 1, this is a game we know very little about.
Number 1.
Not even the official name, but this one already has us chomping at the bit for more. A completely new IP from the Yakuza studio that looks unlike anything else they've ever done. It's hard not to get excited about this thing.
I see them on Game Pass,
Project Century. Look how cool it is. It's set in some kind of alternate universe Japan in 1915, and you play as... Well, I don't know who you're playing as, who they are, or what's going on, but it looks awesome.
It does look awesome.
Mostly all we got from the Game Awards announcement trailer was a lot of really intriguing shots of this unnamed city and some particularly brutal combat that looks like an evolution of the standard Yakuza beat-em-up combat to make the game more visceral than anything the studio has made previously. The way combat seems to transition seamlessly, the way you go into linear fighting game and move around the environment just looks so much more fluid and immersive here. I have no idea what it's about or even what the setting is outside of it being 1915 and in somewhere in Japan, but everything else is a total mystery.
What else do you need to know
With the studio, RGG, it doesn't matter what they make. We'll always be there day one or at least be curious, but this one looks especially...
I want to see one of those that's like, I guess they already have something like that, but it's just like an open world version of this where it's like 1700s, 1600s, where you could be like either select your class as like a ninja and play that way or a samurai warrior. But that's basically what Assassin's Creed Shadow is. And I can't wait for that game. That's going to be bomb, man.
Especially intriguing, right? Because like it doesn't look like something completely new for the studio. I mean, the trailer focuses on a lot of beating up dudes in the street of a Japanese city that makes up, the average like 60% of your typical Yakuza game's playtime. But everything else around that, everything about this one is a big and cool question mark. And we find that very exciting. Who knows when this one's coming out? I mean, it's still called Project something. It doesn't even really, I guess, have an official name right now. Those are 10 games, but we do have some bonus ones. We want to throw in a few indie games here.
That's a good question. Well-Trained asks, would you ever switch to another platform full-time? Well, no, because I'm kind of testing all platforms out, and I still haven't gotten the followers that I need in order to start testing live for TikTok. So after that, I'll probably stream for a little while and see which one hits the most. And if they're all doing okay, I might pick to be partner or affiliate with one of them or two of them if they allow that kind of thing. Yeah, no, not really. Let's see what the indies games that they're recommending here is, because I kind of like indie games sometimes too.
They might not be as flashy or high profile, but we still want to talk about them. Check out Absolem. This recently announced beat 'em up is coming from Dotemu, the guys behind the really good Streets of Rage 4, and this looks like a successor to their really good work on that game. What makes Absolem different is that it's going to be a roguelike beat 'em up with branching paths and random enemy layouts and upgrades and stuff you find along the way.
Anime choppy.
It sounds a lot like Hades, but has a beat 'em up, which just sounds like a really, really good creative idea. Something that I would like to play. Also, Abyss X Zero. This crazy-looking Mega Man Legends-inspired anime action game comes for the developers behind Unsighted, which was good, and this looks even better. The art design is pitch perfect. The action looks crazy.
I don't mind the art design.
And we love to see a door getting unlocked. That's always a good sign in a game like this. Just getting something, anything with that clean Legends art style and energy is exciting. And thankfully, this doesn't just look like a tired ripoff or a desperate attempt to revive a dead IP. It looks unique and inspired in its own right. And lastly, let's wrap up this one with a game that we've heard almost nobody talk about but looks very intriguing, a game called Animal Use Protocol. Made by the developers behind the Status games, this is their first fully 3D games, and it looks disturbing as hell. animal lovers are gonna probably have a hard time with this one. It looks like you play as this intelligent chimp with a little mouse buddy who has to escape from a horrific animal testing lab. These guys know how to put
like
creepy,
Planet
cute
of the
characters
Apes,
in
like
nightmare
escape room
situations.
style. That's
if you
kind of
did
cool.
play Status Bone Totem, you know what I'm talking about. And this game is all about that. Their games tend to be a little rough around the edges, but their ideas are always fascinating with solid pacing and puzzle design. This looks like their most ambitious game, and it looks stressful as hell, and we really hope it turns out just as good or even better than their previous games. But, like we said, those are 10 or so games that we're pretty hyped about. We hope they're good. Fingers crossed. All you can do is hope for the best, and we're just happy to talk about some random new games today. So let us know in the comments if any of these games intrigued you, or if you have any other kind of weird, different games on your personal list that you just haven't seen a lot of places talk about. Hit us up. And if you like this video and you like talking games with us every day, clicking the like button helps us out. We really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing as well. But either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Dude, honestly, that video was pretty good. I like some of the games that were on there. Again, I think that they did a little bit too much of the kind of, what do you call it, horror genre. But I know that horror genres are pretty popular, so maybe they're just doing that because they really are like the best games that are coming out. And they said that they had some OG developers that are coming on. I think that's cool too. Bro's been grinding hard, respect. And I mean, I appreciate you, man. Honestly, I am just doing this for fun. So that's it.